bring magic back into a world of logic, where we can now invite in the mystical onto this beautiful planet and combine all of our perspectives into one truth without rejecting any else. We live by a calendar that was created in 1582 by a Roman Pope to make people remember when to pay taxes. We think that this is not important, that this is just something that gives us data. But in actuality, it is subconsciously extremely important.
What would you leave us with today?
We are cells of a big ecosystem that is our beautiful planet Earth. And when we recognize that we're neither separate from the plants, the animals, the soil, the air, the fire, the water. When we recognize that we are all of those things, then we remember who we truly are.
Anna Veneta, alias UFO Caller, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, first of all. You are amazing. I love you. And what an interesting question to start off with. So, what is actually happening in the collective right now is probably one of the most exciting moments that have ever been present on this earth. And I believe this is simply because we are in a time of great separation, where we share all these different kinds of opinions and perspectives that are taking us further away from each other. And I think one interesting part of this is that, for example, in the mental health realm, we're being taught to, self-love and take care of ourselves and to set boundaries and to, create a specific distance towards people who are not good for us. But at the same time, what I can see simultaneously is that we are isolating ourselves in many ways. I mean, also when it comes to phones and distractions in our daily lives and no connection to Mother Earth. But we are also isolating ourselves from other people who don't share the same opinions as we do. We can see that most people are easily triggered during this time. I mean, me and you, we are part of a generation, Gen Z, where we are always being explained as a generation that is easily triggered and, very sensitive, which has its good aspects. But at the same time, we are creating a scenario where we are not being able to coexist with different opinions and different perspectives. And I think this time is so interesting because we are being challenged to understand what is actually important, which is human connection, which is coming together not just with each other, but also returning to nature, returning to everything that is making us feel like we are aligned and we belong to something. And that is also a big reason why I started to do my work with nature's cycles and with nature's time, because we live in a time system that is disconnecting us from who we are and disconnecting us from all the cycles that we can see outside of ourselves and inside of our own bodies. So when we can consciously return to that, I think that we cannot be controlled by any outside forces, even though it may seem like, governments or religions have power over us and power against us and against each other. But in actuality, we are so powerful individually. And when we understand what we have in common with each other, and when we can return to what we actually are within our essence and not just our personalities and our little stories, we can not be controlled or manipulated by anybody. So it is in our responsibility right now to, take the sword into our hands. And I'm not talking about the sword that is fighting, but the swords of truth, the swords that are helping us speak up and helping us see life clearly without any confusion, which is also very present in the moment right now, to return to what has always been here. And everything that we need is already on this planet. So there's no need to escape into other dimensions, even though we may feel a call home. We are also a star on the earth. We are surrounded by stars. We are an alien species to other species. So we don't need to see ourselves as something lower developed or as something that needs to always look outside for something magical or mystical. It is all present in nature. And I think during these times right now, I'm excited to bring magic back into a world of logic where everything has seemed to be very structured and programmed and conditioned, where we can now invite in the mystical onto this beautiful planet and combine all of our perspectives into one truth without rejecting any else.
Beautiful. And I know that we're going to go really deep today around what actually happened with time and how it was distorted in the larger galactic cycle that we're part of. Before that, I know that growing up, you use one word to describe what school was for you, and you said it was humiliation.
Yeah.
And that you've always had from a very early age these beautiful memories of other dimensional lives, and that's why you said that this incarnation felt like a punishment in the beginning. I feel like that statement that I just brought through is something that so many people can resonate with. And so I wanted to just explore, growing up, what was it in you that was remembering these other dimensional lives, and how growing up in a system, a structure that couldn't necessarily fit you into the box that they were trying to fit others in, really kicked you off into this journey for then developing all that you're speaking about and teaching about today.
Thank you so much for asking. So when I was born, I always had this certain kind of sadness within my being. And that was because from very early on, I had dreams that were very vivid and more real than this reality even. So you can imagine it in a way of all of your senses being amplified by 1,000. And colors exist that don't exist in this reality. And beings are there that I've never seen in this realm. So there was always this feeling of, why am I here when nothing on this planet is even close to what my dreams are about, to what I remember about other planets and about other lifetimes? Why am I now being incarnated into this family that I didn't feel any connection to? And why do I need to go to a specific place, into a school that is teaching me about things that I'm not interested in and that I find are not important for this life at all? Why do I need to remember these things? Why do I need to behave in certain ways? Why is everyone going to work from 9 to 5 and not questioning why they're doing it? Why is everyone telling me that that's just how it is? When I've always been feeling that life and the existence itself has the opportunity of just adventure and exploration. And nobody seemed to touch on that or to live like that. And that was something that has made me depressed very early on when I was a child and was going to kindergarten firstly, and I saw how other people were behaving or living their lives or just having already very rigid opinions about other people or situations when they were really children. And I got bullied on very early on in my life because I was simply just different. I was speaking in a different way. I was having other perspectives on things. I was questioning the teachers, which is a no-go for for I believe most schools. And this depression that I developed went very deep, and I was telling my mom every day that I just want to go home, and I was thinking about killing myself. And I think the point that I made before about, wanting to escape into other dimensions that most of us in the spiritual community try to do is actually a very destructive way of seeing this existence, but it took me a lot of work to actually realize that. And I want to share my platform, and I want to share my story, especially for those who feel like nobody understands them, because I know that now, it wasn't like that when I was younger, but now we have the internet, we have Instagram, we can see all these different people talk about mystical experiences and past lives and other planets and star seeds. So we have an overflow of that, but I strongly believe that there are some things within everybody, inside of you too, that are not able to be explained by anybody else. And it can make us feel alone even when we are in a time of saturated, overwhelming information. And so I believe that this conversation is still important, that when a child feels that there's something off about this system, about this life, about this planet, about other people, and that it doesn't feel like it belongs, that it's really important to make that child feel like it's not alone and that it's being understood. So to know that every person who is maybe listening to this and has experienced that in their lifetime or still experiencing that, it is important to know that it is normal what you're feeling. And most people carry a secret within themselves that is almost like impossible to share because they're scared of other people's reactions. But the thing is that when we are holding our story back to ourselves, it creates like this immediate reaction of isolation, and that can happen emotionally, mentally, and also physically. And what is important in that moment to know is that life on this planet is way more magical than we have been taught it is. And that there is beauty that you can find anywhere. And the hope of that needs to keep you going, because life is not just what we have been taught about, also meditation and astral travel and ancient civilizations. This is like a tiny aspect of it, but there's so much more that you can discover that will be sacred to only you. And when you allow yourself to have this expanded mind of, there's so much more that most people don't even have the opportunity to grasp 1% of and will never have, then the imagination of creation can become limitless and endless. And I think that usually when we're depressed about feeling misunderstood or feeling like we are separate from this world, what it actually is just a search for connection. And I think that we live in a time where people learn how to disconnect with each other. And social media is one example of that. It is not social. It has become like advertisement and marketing and an overload of information. So we're not actually connecting through that anymore. So what is it that you can connect to that is right in front of you? I think that people, especially in the spiritual realm, they are looking for all these mystical experiences, but at the same time, they're not looking at what is right in front of them. So we can have all this knowledge about different topics in this life, but what is way more important is what family are you incarnated into? What people are surrounding you? Who are your neighbors? Do you even know that? Like, are you talking to the people who are right in front of your door? Are you listening to their stories? Are you curious about other people's existence? Are you looking at the nature that is in front of you or the nature that you were born into? Are you looking at the country that you were born into and actually researching about the history of that place? Because when you always try to escape this reality and you identify yourself as, you know, being a star seed and being like a specific name, like a Pleiadian or an Arcturian, what you're actually doing is you're limiting yourself and you're putting yourself inside a box that is not connected to what life actually is, because we as human beings, we're so used to conditioning ourselves, like, you're Colombian, I am Austrian, like we are white and the other people are black. Like we like to put names and labels on things, but that is also the problem with time, that we say, okay, today is like the 8th of May 2026, but this is not the reality of existence. So we can look behind things and beyond things when we stop putting names and labels. So don't say to yourself, I'm not from this planet. You are. This is your home. You came here for a reason. And when you can use the opportunity with everything that is already in front of you, which is a gift that has been given by the universe, then you can go deeper. Then you can explore all the other aspects. But to not use spirituality as a distraction. And this is actually what I had to learn in order to get out of my depression. Because I was always thinking the grass is greener somewhere else, because I had these amazing memories. But now I know that I can create all of these sensations of beauty, of happiness, of aliveness, and of joy right here. Even though we are in a difficult planet, we are in a planet of polarity, and there are a lot of scary things happening here. But when we want to see the good in the world, and when we want to see peaceful behavior of people and countries, and we want people to love each other, then we need to be the first example for that. And I always quote Michael Jackson for this when I say, like, you have to start looking at the man in the mirror, and then you can change the world. Because this is where we start. We cannot point fingers and say, oh, the government, and they're doing this to us, and we're slaves. And this is not unimportant to know. But at the same time, you are distracting yourself from your inner power, from your inner essence, from what is the potential that you can bring on this earth. Because when you're just judging and complaining and worrying, which are always the three things that I talk about that are lowering our vibration and letting us forget who we are, which is complaining, judging, and worrying, that is when we will never be able to find our path on this planet, and we will always question why we're here. So when we can stop to do these three things by just being aware of us doing them or practicing those, we can become limitless. We can become something outside of the label and the conditioning and the programming that we have. And as I said also earlier, nobody has the possibility to control us when we see life and earth as this beautiful game that we choose to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere along your journey, as you were mentioning, you had this thought that said something is off. And I think a lot of us, I came to that conclusion, like something feels off, like energetically.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the outside world, I'm looking at my internal world, something feels off. And you've gone through a really deep journey of exploring what that something is from the lens of time itself. And I wanted to kind of bridge those two questions of what is the time, where does it come from, why do we have it, and why something feels off in our reality in that sense, and how we're repairing it as we're having this conversation too.
Yes. So it is very interesting because something that we also hear a lot in the spiritual realm is that time is an illusion, right? We hear this all the time. So we shouldn't pay attention to time because this is just an illusion and we are eternal beings. So why should we care about time anyway when it doesn't exist? This is partly true when you look at it from a higher dimensional aspect. But when we look at it from our human experience and when we look at nature, we can actually see, wait a minute, but we have seasons. Not in all countries. In some countries we have seasons. We have things that are changing over time. So we have the moon cycles. We have the menstrual cycle in our own bodies as women. So we can see when we look outside that actually time exists because things are repeating themselves and changing themselves, but the time doesn't exist as a linear line like we are being taught. Like we have an age, we have a calendar that is ticking off days, like we're in a prison cell almost, right? So this is very interesting because of course time exists. We're aging in this dimension, but what are we using time as? Are we using it as a tool, or are we using it as something that is just telling us when to do what? Like, as I said before, is like a prison cell where you're ticking off days and you're just waiting for your own physical death. And what I've discovered by what you were saying earlier about things are feeling off is that I discovered that we're not living according to nature's cycles anymore. So, and this is not my own discovery. Many people are on this path of finding out about this aspect of time. So I digged a little bit deeper and I found out about the history of our calendar and our clock. And everything started to make sense. The depression that I had as a child and not understanding why I need to go to school, not understanding why we need to work after school for a whole lifetime, and then we need to go to have our pension and then we die after that. So that was always very creepy to me, like almost like a dystopian reality that I wouldn't want to be part of. So I realized why that is. And we live by a calendar that was created in 1582 by a Roman Pope, Pope Gregory XIII. And this Pope created this calendar in order to make people remember when to pay taxes. So this is very interesting because we think when we live our daily lives and we make a schedule for a meeting and we see what day is it today, we think that this is not important, that this is just something that gives us data. But in actuality, it is subconsciously extremely important because, as you know, and probably the people who are watching too, is that everything is energy and everything is influencing everything. So we are all connected. We are connected to each other, to nature, but also to the programs that we're being induced with. So the big reason of why we don't feel of why we feel disconnected and also why some people of us want to leave the planet is because we are living in a system that is based on politics and hard work and money. So think about the Pope deciding to create these months in order to make people work hard and then pay money to the church, which is a system that we still live by, even though now it's not as obvious, but we're still doing that. So we live according to a system that is not connected to any cycles of nature anymore. So it all started in Rome, and before that, people were using according to nature cycles. And even if it was not the moon, it was the sun, it was about floods, it was about harvesting. It was about some cultures like ancient Mesopotamia had lunar calendars, also ancient Greek, also the Egyptian calendars were lunar. So the Roman influence standardized systems. And when we are in a disharmonious system, we become disharmonious. And we can now argue if that was on purpose or not, but that's actually not what this is about. We can look at that and see that we have the choice to consciously do it differently. And I just want to give you like a brief overview of why our calendar is distorted. So when we look at it, we have 12 months that have unequal days. So sometimes we have 30 days, sometimes 31, in February 28 or 29. So mathematically, this is already disharmonious. So we have scattered numbers that are just that have no real reason, because when we go back to history, we can see that Julius and Augustus Caesar, they were taking 2 months of the calendar, which is, of course, July and August. And what they did was basically because of their power and what they wanted to present to the people, they wanted to have more days in their months, because already a calendar existed before them, which had like more equal day structure, but they wanted to have more days in their month, so they took away from February. That's the only reason why we have unequal days in February, which is very crazy to think about. So this is about power. So we have the energy first of politics, money, and power inside the calendar. What is also interesting is the name of the months that we have. For example, March represents the energy of the god of war, which is Mars. So we have the energy of war also inside the calendar. Very interesting. And then the months, when it comes to their numbers, are distorted as well. So, for example, when we look at the Latin language and we look at October, for example, in Latin, octo means 8. So why is October the 10th month? That doesn't make any sense. Or November is novem in Latin, which means 9, and November is the 11th month of the calendar. So decem is 10, which is the 12th month of the calendar. So what is going on? I think that it's very interesting because, you know, they had the opportunity to create a new calendar that is at least mathematically harmonic, but they chose not to. And I'm really curious about why that is. So I was digging deeper into this and found out that also the 1st of January is, of course, not in any natural way the start of the new year. And this is because on the 1st of January, a new consul in Rome got selected, which is, again, politics. And we're still celebrating that. Why are we celebrating that a new consul is being selected in the Roman Empire? That is really interesting. So I was researching about solutions to that. Like, what did people do? How did they live before that? And what happened with our natural, connection to anything that is on this planet? Because we're just living by some people's structures that have no roots inside anything that is important for our existence on this planet. So this is also a reason why we are always scared that time is running out, because they make us feel like we need to work hard and we need to pay and we need to always be productive, which is a complete program. It is not what this life on this earth is supposed to be about at all. So when we look at nature, we can see it as our biggest teacher, and we can see that nothing in nature is working hard or is forcing itself to produce anything. It grows naturally and it has its own timing. So the method that I found that is mathematically perfect and harmonious for our own systems is the so-called 13 moon calendar, which is very interesting because in this calendar we also have 365 days, but we can split those into 13 perfect equal months with each perfect 28 days, which is very curious because when you think about it, why are they not using the system? Like, it's so obvious, to use a system like this where we can always have the repeating cycles.
And 13 was always seen as an unlucky number.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And this is also a big part of this because 13 is actually also the number of the feminine energy, which is also connected to the moon. When we talk about the 13 moons, we talk about the orbits of the moons around the Earth per year, which is 13 times approximately. And when we deleted the moon out of our system, we deleted the feminine energy. And this is why we're also work driven and productive and planning and structured and rational, because the masculine part of us is activated, but also not in a harmonious way, because we're also not living according to the sun, which is the masculine energy. Not even that is being looked at. So this would be the conversation about the clock when we talk about the sun, which is also not what we're living by. But the number 13, for example, is a very sacred number that has been consciously erased from our from our human experience, because when you look at 13, everywhere it's being seen as this evil number, Friday the 13th, and in some hospitals you don't have room 13, or in some planes you don't have the row 13, and this is simply because 13 is such a powerful number. And it is, for example, when we look at the history of 13, when we look at Jesus and the 12 apostles, we are missing Mary Magdalene, who played such a big role in the story of Jesus and was representing the feminine aspect of life. So we deleted her from this group so that it became Jesus and the 12 apostles. So she was the 13th apostle. We have actually 13 zodiac signs that nobody's talking about. So there's actually the 13th sign is a man holding a snake. But this has all been deleted from our consciousness, so that we're not questioning the 12 months and the unequal time system. So this is why I decided I want to start living according to that 13 moon, to these 13 moons. I want to start living according to nature's cycles. And many ancient civilizations were using this exact system, because it's not just a calendar. The name calendar, by the way, is distorted itself, because the word calendar means tax book, which is funny.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is not a calendar, the 13 moons. It is a synchrometer. And a synchrometer is something that measures synchronicity. So when you start living according to the cycles of the moon, you will see that synchronicities amplify in your life. And this is not because, spiritual superiority, or because you should have mystical experience through synchronicity. No, synchronicity is actually something that is supposed to be the most natural experience in our lives. And it's very funny, because when we experience a synchronicity, usually we are excited and surprised, and we feel like, oh my God, this is amazing. The universe is talking to me, and we feel so good, which nothing wrong about that. But in actuality, our life on this planet is supposed to be just a chain of synchronicities that happen the whole day, that happen constantly. And when we connect ourselves to nature again, we will find that this is actually what's going to happen. And, many people, they ask me about, how can I connect to the spiritual forces? And how is it possible that, things come to me naturally? And how can I change my life? Like, how can I get out of this, rigid work system that is keeping me trapped, and my life is so boring and miserable? And one big thing about this is the time that you're living by. Because when you're reconnecting to nature, the universe is already operating with you, because you become one with it again. So it's not that you necessarily need to do manifestation practices, or you need to make a vision board. Nothing wrong about that. Again, it's nice to do these things. But the main point that is so underlying is the time that we live by. And this is why the universe cannot cooperate with us anymore, because we're not part of it anymore. We're like separating ourselves. So talking about what I said in the beginning, separation is not just happening between humans, it's happening between us and the universe, and us and nature. And we're kind of doing this to ourselves in some way. So don't put the blame on specific politicians or leaders, because they're just a representation of something that is happening within all of us, because we are all connected. There's no single being on this planet that is not in some way connected to us as well. So let's not put the blame on others. Let's start taking responsibility and actually live according to what feels natural and harmonious. And then no matter what happens in your life, even if the worst external things happen, you will know who you are. You will be aligned with something greater. And what I want to add to this also is that most people are so afraid now of like in slavery and maybe war happening and people being killed, and you know the powers of this earth controlling us in some way. But the reality is that they're so limited with their power. They have no access to the everlasting existence that we are. And it's almost funny to look at it because, yeah, okay, you can control specific groups of people on this planet, but that's it. Like, you cannot go further than that. When we die, we just leave our bodies, but we continue to live on. So how can you harm me? So let's try to look at it from this perspective. Nothing outside of me can harm me. If something harms me, I'm doing it to myself. And this is a big point about also the depression that we were talking about earlier. I am connected to everything on this planet. And I know that when you say that, it sounds like, duh, you know, spirituality, but this is something you need to experience. Nobody can tell you that in words. Mm. Yeah.
And going beyond also this notion that time is not linear, you've also brought through the notion that time is a spiral, and that you said that in reality, time is bendable. And as we learn how to bend this time, then our life becomes a series of synchronicities. So I also wanted to explore that in terms of how you've learned to play with this time system that is of the old paradigm, simultaneously knowing that this other, synchrometer exists, and that you can also tune yourself to that.
Yes. So time bending is like an art that nobody's really talking about, because most people perceive time as something that is fixed. And the human experience, though, is telling a very different story. Because as you probably have experienced in your own life, there are some moments where an hour can feel endless. And sometimes where an entire year disappears, it can feel like it was just a few weeks because so many things happen. Or a conversation with someone you love feels like it's timeless. Or when we talk about traumatic experiences, like 5 minutes can feel like an hour sometimes in these ways. So the thing is that people think that this is an illusion, okay? So when I do something that I don't want to do, it takes forever, it's so exhausting, and people think, no, that is just in my imagination. But in actuality, this is the real time. So the clock that you're looking at and the minutes that you're seeing, this is something constructed. This is something that has been invented to I don't want to say that was the intention, but it is limiting us, okay? So in actuality, when you perceive that sometimes time is running really fast and sometimes time is running really slow, this is something that is the reality of time itself. So our consciousness has the ability to bend time. And time we have three possibilities here. Time can contract, time can stretch, and time can expand. So contracting time happens when consciousness becomes accelerated. So often it occurs when we are in stress, when we're overstimulated, when we are distracted. then days are like, or hours are blurring together. This is also why sometimes you can find yourself on your phone scrolling for 3 hours and it felt like, how did the time pass so fast, you know? And this is simply because our nervous system, now it becomes a little bit biological. The nervous system is overloaded in that moment and attention is fragmented. So when something is pulling us away from the present moment, this is when consciousness, awareness leaves and time is automatically speeding up. This is when we are in this like robotic state of existence. This is also what happens when we go to work every single day and we're just operating like a robot that needs to fulfill specific tasks, but we're not actually present and we're not actually experiencing what we're doing. We're just doing it automatically. So this is time contraction, just to be aware of that. And then time expansion is the opposite. So this is occurring when presence is deepening. So when you're fully immersed in creation, in nature, in meditation. You know, sometimes we do a 10-minute meditation and it was like, wait, but that felt like 3 hours, something like that. Or time begins to expand and moments become richer and they stay in our long-term memory. So children naturally experience that. I don't know if you remember about your childhood, but sometimes when we were waiting for Christmas or birthdays, it felt like it was taking so much time, you know, because we, as children, we are so deeply present within each and every moment, and everything is new and everything is alive, and we're not constantly projecting into the future. So this is why also summers as a child, it was like an endless time because consciousness was more slower and it was more connected to sensation. So when we know what tools we can use in order to expand or contract time, that is when we can actually become time benders and become conscious of that we create time. This is also connected to our age. So sometimes I talk about the fact that we are actually not supposed to know how old we are because this is again a label, which I talked about before, which is putting us into a specific box that is telling us, okay, I need to achieve this by this age, or I'm not allowed to do this because I'm this age. And what this is doing to us is that we're contracting time in this way and that we're becoming older way faster because every birthday we're celebrating that we are running out of time. So this is also like a kind of spell that we're putting onto ourselves. And I'm not saying to not celebrate birthdays because I believe that the solar return is a very natural happening that is powerful. But what we should stop celebrating is a specific number because this is disconnecting us from what our actual potential could be. So I'm not a scientist, but I'm a strong believer that if we would not know how old we are, we would actually become way older. And we would not have to use any creams or surgeries or anything to make us look younger because in our consciousness, we would already feel how young we actually are. And then adapt our lives to feel even more alive and young. But we are not allowing this to ourselves because we have this number and we need to be aware of what we can do and what we cannot do. So when we know that expanding time means being physically aware and focused in this reality, which means through creativity, through connecting deeply to another person, having a meaningful conversation, learning something new, spending time in nature, actually connecting to nature, touching the grass, touching the tree, talking to everything that is alive around us. When we actually use these tools instead of just talking about the nice idea of them, then we can see how time will naturally expand. And when we can find ourselves in autopilot or in distraction, that is when time is contracting. So this is the power that you have of your own life, of your own existence, that nobody can take away from you, no matter what happens on the outside.
I'm curious to know how you spent your last solar return with that mindset.
My last solar return, where was I? I always try to go to specific places that I receive through meditation. So I receive the information that I need to be somewhere for a specific code. So we were talking about this before when we had our own conversation, that places on Earth are something very important to become aware of, that every place has a certain energy and a certain potential and a frequency. So when we can learn about a place and connect to a place, we can see that some places are portals, some of them are blocked, some of them are open, and we can actively work with them energetically. But this is another topic. When last year I turned 26, again the label of the number, and I actually spent it in my home country because I felt that it is time to make peace with that. And when you have a difficulty with the place that you grew up in, it is very easy to go somewhere else and stay in another place forever and never question where you came from. But everything has a reason about why we came to this specific place with these specific parents. So I was in the process of finding out why I was incarnated there, and I spent the solar return there to consciously connect to all the spirits and all the beings that are active within this country and ask what they want from me. Like, why is it that my frequency needs to be in a place that seems so opposing to what I actually feel inside of me? Like, what is it that I'm here to do? And I always say to the people that, yes, I work with the 13 moon calendar and I work with these cycles of nature, but there are also other natural anchor points that you can hold on to understand what natural time is. And one of them is actually the birthday, the solar return. So each solar return is a new year in your own personal life, is a new start, a new cycle. So when you can see that, you have the opportunity to purify the old version of yourself and step into new possibilities. So I recommend to everybody to do like a kind of purification ritual before your solar return reoccurs, and to consciously know that a new year is starting for you. And yeah, so for me it was about understanding the birthplace where I was incarnated.
Beautiful. And I know that in your journey in the beginning, you did feel this misunderstanding, almost separation from the world around you. It wasn't until you went to Egypt for a Matthias de Stefano event that reconnection began.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing him up because I love what he says around remembrance, and
Yeah.
it is our duty, our responsibility in that way to share our memories, because remembering means to put the members back together. And I wanted to revisit that conversation in the beginning around, in the spiritual realm, it's very easy to go outside and focus on the astral experiences, the metaphysical experiences, and kind of be outside of our bodies. But I do feel there is an importance to, at least in a sense, share the memories that we've retained, because by us sharing those, we are activating other nodes of remembrance around the globe. And so I would love to open the space if you would like to share any any memories that you've been kind of sprinkling in through the conversation that you've had, to help us also understand that it is synchronistic that people are here in this conversation to hear you, hear your voice, hear your uniqueness. And so, yeah, I would love to open the space for that.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, I completely agree with you. It is important to share what we remember. And this is also why I was saying before that it is our duty for those who remember that we share ourselves for others to not feel alone anymore. And even though we have our very unique experiences, we can connect through what we all are part of in the greater whole, which is beyond the human experience. So what maybe I want to bring up right now, because there's of course a lot that is connected to other dimensions and planets and past lives. What maybe feels resonating to me right now is that I have memories about dimensions where I meet the higher self of people. So these are very vivid dreams usually, where I meet someone that maybe I have met already in this lifetime, or maybe not. Maybe this is a person to me that's new for this incarnation. But for me, the most interesting part is when I meet someone, let's say I meet you in another dimension and I meet your higher self. This is very interesting to me because usually that happened in the past with people who I have had conflict with, or who I've had a big, disagreement with, or in general, somebody who hurt me a lot and caused me a lot of pain. I used to, or I still do, meet them in these higher planes of existence as their higher self. And every time these people in their fullest expression are completely perfect. But what is so interesting about it is that they are still unique. So they have a certain personality about how they communicate, about how they see things, but at the same time, they are so pure within every aspect of themselves. And I think it is so important to remember that we have our personalities that are so flawed and that are full of, shadow aspects, because we have both, all of us have both. But in other dimensional planes, these same personalities that are so unique are expressing themselves in the most pure way, where maybe your biggest enemy that you have in this life is your best friend in the other plane. And I think these memories have taught me the most about this life right now, because I was able to forgive those people in a second, because I was not able to forget about them, how they are in their higher dimensional aspect. And maybe this is just for people who don't have these visions or dreams, just to know that the stories that are happening here are like a theater, and they are like a little game where we all are playing characters. But when we are actually going into another state of consciousness, these people that we have so much problems with, let's say your parents were terrible in your childhood and they maybe even abused you or bullied you, they can be your absolute best friends in a higher plane. And this is actually what is true. So other experiences that I had were mostly connected to other beings, and I don't want to put a label on them. And people usually ask me, yeah, but are you in the Pleiades, or are you, you
Me too.
know?
I get that question a lot. I'm all of them.
And also, there are so many planets and dimensions that we don't have a name for, because they're so far from our system, or they have not reached our consciousness yet, and we can still go there, but we don't have a name for them yet. So why put a name on them? And also what most beings are shapeshifters. So when beings are coming from a higher dimensional realm or a frequency that is vibrating on a higher level, then they also have the capacity, the ability to lower their frequency. And when they do that, they have to change form because maybe the shape that they have in a specific realm would die in another realm. Like it is very abstract, and the dimensions are so intertwined and merging with one another that we cannot say, look, the Pleiadians look like this. And I'm not saying that people haven't made these experiences, because this is also true. But don't try to only think that this is how it is. Like, there are limitless possibilities of how beings can look and appear and shapeshift and change themselves. And a lot of times, the beings and the angels are other human beings that we meet in this lifetime. So to not limit yourself with these perceptions. And a memory and memories that I have, of course, are linked to civilizations that were living with nature. And a big part of this is the beings that are being seen as fantasy in this current world and society, like fairies, like dragons, like mermaids, all of these different beings I have memories of existing in a very real way, like just like me and you. And these beings are communicating with me when I'm in specific places, and they want to be acknowledged by us again. So I encourage everyone to research about mythological stories of their place that they're located at and see what kind of beings people used to talk about, because those are most likely actually still there, but we are not able to see them anymore because we lowered our frequency to a level where their bodies cannot exist. But that doesn't mean that they're not there. So they they are looking actually for our recognition, and they want to talk to us and communicate because they are very wise about how the nature works, about what we can do to connect to it, about what the human experience is capable of and the potential it has. So maybe we can all collectively try to, instead of listening to like specific people in power or prophets also in spirituality, try to ask the beings that are already working with all of these things and know about all the history of the humans and who've seen everything, and there's no programming or manipulation behind. So this is one more memory that is really important for me to share.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for going there. I had chills run through my whole body when you said that sometimes the enemies that we have here are actually our best friends in other dimensional planes. And I feel like when you can actually tune into that very clearly, forgiveness becomes the effect, the outcome of that.
Yes, it's
And
automatic.
automatic,
Yeah.
automatic. It's like an avatar when they greet each other by saying, I see you.
Oh,
And I think that the I see you is really, I see you for you in this plane, but also the layers of other planes that exist at the same time simultaneously. You mentioned that we lowered our frequency to not be able to see these beings that exist from the mythologies and the fantasies.
mhm.
Are we in the process of raising the frequency again so that all of these dimensional planes that you're tuning into, that you're perceiving, become available to everyone?
Yes. So this is the exciting part about being alive right now. I don't know if you have ever heard about this, but there's the so-called galactic night and galactic day that we have experienced as humanity. It is this curve that is always repeating, also like a cycle. And this curve started to go down, which means lowering the frequency of humanity, when the fall of Atlantis happened. So humanity was lowering their consciousness for many thousands of years simply because of that natural curve. Right now, we are at the point where this curve is in the center. So we are about to go up again into the galactic day. And this is why it's so exciting, because we are in this in between of, okay, lower frequencies, higher frequencies emerging. This is also why we can see so much separation, and why it's important for those of us who have the tools and who have the privilege to study spirituality, to consciously choose to connect with one another again, so that we can raise that and fasten that process, so that it will be a little bit smoother, instead of maybe creating like a war that I don't even want to put out there. But war is not just physical, and it's not just between countries, it's also internal. So to prevent that, we are being asked to see the enemy as the best friend. This is also connected to Jesus' teachings. But then understand how we can come together in groups and support each other in order for us to go into the galactic day. And when we can raise the frequency, and it will naturally happen, which I want to add to this. So of course we have responsibility, but at the same time, this is a natural process of humanity. So it will naturally happen, but when it happens, we will be able to have access to the dimensions that are overlaying with this one. So the third dimension is not physically lower than others, they are overlapping. We just say we are lower and others are above, not because of physical distance, but because of frequency. So lower and higher is not physical. So at that point, when we start raising it again, we will be able to see, and there are many, many people out there who already see the fairies out there, and the spirits, and the guardians who are taking care of certain places. So definitely we are in the process. And if you want yourself to learn how to do that, I encourage people to start talking to plants and to specific places in nature that you feel drawn to. And even if you cannot see anything with your physical eye, just start talking to it and start to treat those energies like they are your friends, and tell them about your day, tell them about your path, and ask them, what can I do to support you in some way? Or what do you want to tell me right now that I'm here? So it's all about this conversation that we can have with other beings and the divine, that can be so uncomplicated. We don't need to be speaking a specific language, or, it is like being friends with those aspects of life again. And that opens a lot of doors. And you will see that it's not, spirituality and like spiritual experiences are not that complicated. It's actually really simple.
You also mentioned the civilizations that were living in accordance to natural rhythms and natural time. I'm wondering if there are memories that have emerged within you around how a whole civilization behaves when it is aligned with a natural calendar, or not calendar, synchrometer, because it must be a little bit different, I'm guessing, from where we are today.
Yeah. So everybody brings a specific potential to this world and to this incarnation. And this is a big part of my work with the 13 moon calendar. Is I also go with people into one-on-one conversations where we dive into their essence energy, where we can actually read from that calendar and see what is the potential that you're bringing onto this earth. Because a lot of times these things are hidden. And even when we have a specific talent, sometimes it is not connected to the fullest potential that we can bring. So it is very unique and interesting and specific. So during that time, people were being taught from a very early age that how they can activate their potential and what their purpose is. So this was a time where school was not something where teachers were looking down on children. It was like an exchange of students. So the teachers also saw themselves as students, and the students were able to also put in their insight and their experience and their, let's say, spiritual development and share that with the class or with the teacher, and it would be equally important as the teacher's input. So those children learned very early on what their gift is. And I'm not saying there's just one, there are many, but there is a gift that we specifically have that we can share and are supposed to share with others. And for some people, that may be cooking. For others, that may be being a doctor. Or it doesn't need to be like so spiritual when we talk about this. It can be something very tangible. So um, those children were taught to explore what that is. And how the society was built was that everybody was feeling so fulfilled in their purpose. They didn't feel like they needed to work hard or be disciplined or motivated in some way to do their purpose because they already brought this gift with them. So this was something that they were passionate about naturally. So when everybody was doing what they were already passionate about, everybody was naturally supporting each other. And there was no need to give people working hours or specific schedules or give them programs of how to do things because it was something very instinctive. So when you see, for example, how animals behave in this world and they know exactly when to do what and how to behave in certain situations, human beings have the same. And this is not something that is bad. Like our animal brain is not something that is bad and we need to remove. It is something that we can use as a tool to understand how to do things. But the problem here is that in the society today, we are being taught how to do things and we're not feeling them ourselves anymore. So this is the kind of like manipulation, even if it's sometimes not on purpose with specific teachers. They don't know that they're actually manipulating your system, but they're teaching you something that is not meant for you to execute. So when we connect with our purpose and we go into the natural feeling of, oh, I need to be doing this right now, then a natural harmonious society is built. And a big part of this aspect also is that people knew that every single day has a specific potential. So not only they themselves have a potential, but also the days have a potential. So no day is the same. No day is like, oh, now is Monday, so I have to do this and this and that. It was more like, oh, today we have the potential to, for example, purify ourselves. Today is the potential to release the old, to let go. So the people knew from this natural calendar that there were specific things they needed to do in order to activate their highest potential, which created synchronicity again, which created moments of connection and unity with the universe and nature. The thing is, people knew exactly why they are on this earth, and secondly, why the earth is placed in the way it is placed. And right now we have the problem that we have forgotten why the earth is even here. Like, why is the earth placed in this solar system? Why do we look at specific stars? Why is the moon returning in this way? So we have forgotten our place in the universe. And this is why many people have lost their own selves, because what is my place when I don't even know the place of the earth? And this is why it's so important to reconnect to the stars, because they're showing us a map of why we are here. And they're transmitting energies to us that are guiding each and every step to make this life more aligned, more harmonious, and make us understand why we're here. And this is like the main thing of the ancient civilizations, is that they were living according to the frequencies that were being transmitted. And right now we are just ignoring that. And this is a big reason of why it was important for me to bring back the 13 moon calendar or synchrometer to tune people into those frequencies every single day. And I do these transmissions every single day for my group of people, because to remember that every day is very unique and that every day has a potential. And when we live according to that, we live in harmony with nature.
You're also talking about, as I explored more of your work, living in accordance to our galactic signature, as you were talking, like our gift, our potential, our purpose. If we go on your website, which we'll link below, people can use the calendar to put in their date of birth and then receive this galactic signature. I'm curious if you want to use me as a guinea pig or your chart to see how you would read that, because when I came across it, I was a little confused, because it's not like astrology, it's not like Gene Keys numerology, it's its own system. So I have your website here pulled up. I could share my screen if that's all right with you.
For sure.
Let me pull it up here. So here we are. If we go to calculator, right?
Yes.
Here at the top, calculator.
It needs a little update, but yeah.
No, it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
So here people can put in their birth, right?
Yeah. And what you're seeing right now is actually the potential of today.
Oh, that's today. Okay, so let's do a little mini perspective on today. What is today about?
So this is different to your birthday, because when you look at the cross that you see on the right, it is called Galactic cross, where you see these images that are in the position of a cross. If we would look at your own potential, we would be able to see the aspects of your higher self, which is the symbol that is on the top. We would be able to look at the aspects of your gift that you bring to this earth, which is connected to your greatest challenge as well, which is a very interesting aspect of galactic time, because you have the biggest gift as the biggest challenge of your life. That is why most people don't discover it. The one below, the symbol below, is your hidden power, which is something that is always kind of it is not being shown to you actively in this lifetime, so you need to kind of dig it up and bring it to your consciousness to work on that. And then the last part, the part on the right, this is the symbol of the people who are activating the highest potential within you. So the people who you should surround yourself with. It's like your tribe in some way. And the thing in the middle, that is right now the dog, which is also the symbol that is on the left, the big symbol. This is your purpose. So this is what you bring into specifically this incarnation. And most people, they think that the purpose is related to their job only. But a purpose is connected to your job, to your relationships, to your connection with yourself, to your connection with nature. So the purpose is connected to all areas of life. And this is why it is so important. So when we look at the energy of today, which is the white resonant dog, we have here... maybe I can start explaining it in this way, that in galactic time we have archetypes in order to understand energies better. So for example, the dog is an archetype that helps us understand a certain aspect of ourselves. We also have that within astrology when we say a Gemini can be also an archetype, or Scorpio can be an archetype. In astrology, I always start to compare these two, because everybody knows what astrology is. I always say that astrology is a tool to help us understand our human personality. So it helps us understand certain characteristics and aspects of our human behavior, and also the one of others, of course. So this can be nice to understand human difficulties. But when we talk about the 13 moon calendar and the archetypes within that, we actually look at the highest potential of everyone. So it's not at all connected to their personality. This chart if it's called a chart, can be completely the opposite of who you are as a personality, because it is connected to what you decided to do before you came here. So what you can see below the symbol of the dog on the left is a so-called galactic signature. This is a mantra. And these mantras are activation codes for every single day. So when you speak these codes, you basically consciously open the portal for the highest potential to emerge on that day. Because I use them because vibration is the start of everything. Vibration and frequency is what actually created the universe. So when you speak something out loud, this vibration enters your cells and your body responds to it. So when you speak your own galactic signature, which is connected to your purpose, your cells start to remember. So this is why I always tell people, speak your galactic signature before you go to sleep and after you wake up, even if you don't understand the words. Okay, so we are a society very programmed on the mind. We need to analyze, understand everything. This is not what nature is about. Okay, nature is about sensation, feeling, and flow. So when you can speak the signature and you just free yourself from any analyzation, you will be able to see the changes in your life. And when I started to speak my own signature, everything in my life changed. Everything changed. And this was the reason why I was able to even start an Instagram and share myself in that way and share my inner transmissions. It was just because I found out that my biggest gift in my signature is words and expressing myself through words. And this was very curious and this was very interesting to me because I always hated to talk. So I've always been a very shy child who never wanted to have a conversation with anybody. And the best thing for me was to just be in silence all day. So when I saw in my galactic signature that I actually need to speak to people, and of course there's more to it that I'm not going to go into right now, but speaking was the main aspect that I need to do. And when I started to do that, everything suddenly worked out. Everything that I tried to do before that was not connected to speaking to people did not work. It was everything that I did was a failure, and I was so frustrated with what should I do in my life. And this helped me to understand my biggest fear, which is talking, is actually my biggest gift. Wow. So I need to go through that fear, and I need to express exactly that. So this changed my life later. And if we would look at the energy of today, in the 13 moon calendar, we have 13-day cycles within the year. So every 13 days, which is also about the sacred number 13, a new energy pattern starts. And currently we are in the pattern of the seed energy. And the seed energy is all about going into the underground, which has been a reoccurring theme in the past few weeks of my life, is going into the underground, which is the soil, and understanding what wisdom is in this darkness, what wisdom is in the emptiness, let's say, and then become the seed and actively change your environment with it, which is the soil, in order for you to grow. So to put also an intention into the seed. Why are you doing things in the way you're doing them? It is not about what you do, it is about why you do something. Mm-hmm. So this 13-day initiation right now is all about asking yourself, why am I saying this? Why am I doing this? Why do I have these friends? Why do I have this partner? And it's not about finding out negative things. It's about really understanding that your intention is shaping everything in your life. And when you're not aware of your intention, you're living in this autopilot mode that I was talking about before, that is contracting time, because your life doesn't have a meaning when you don't give intention into it. And this is something you have the power to change. So today specifically, we are in the resonant dog energy, which the dog is the representation of loyalty. It is the representation of love, of unconditional love. So I think it's beautiful about when we look at what we have been talking about today, which is all about, compassion towards other perspectives and connecting with people again and seeing that your biggest enemy may be your best friend in a different dimension. It is about returning to this unconditional aspect of love. And it is important to know that love is not the romantic human love that we perceive it as sometimes when we look at, movies or something like that. Love is the energy of the divine. It is not an emotion. It is a frequency that is moving everything. It is the catalyzer of movement on this planet. So when we combine the field of intention, the seed, with the wisdom of the dog, unconditional love, we can see that everything that we're doing, when it is infused with love, will have the greatest movement and the greatest catalyzation that we can imagine. Wow. So this would be like one aspect of today, of the potential of today. Infuse your actions with love and see how things start to move. This would be like the frequency transmission of today.
Love that. Are you open into looking into mine shortly?
For sure. I'm curious.
I'm curious. I looked at it earlier. I actually see mine in one of these 4 over here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you which one yet. Let's see.
Also, usually I use these archetypes to understand something better and in more detail. Ah, beautiful. But when I go into like a one-on-one conversation with someone, I actually open the space and allow even more information than the visuals and the mantra and the archetypes to take place. So when I read to a person their signature, and which usually never happens when a person has the same signature as another person, it would never be the same reading, because I would receive different messages. So if you want to go deeper into that, we can have maybe a separate call. But
yeah, I'd love
if
to.
if I would look into it right now, just plainly from your signature that I see, is very fitting. So you are the yellow planetary sun, which, as I explained before, is the purpose you come into this incarnation with, specifically this incarnation. And the sun, as you can imagine, is the archetype of light. So everything that you're doing, everything that you infuse your energy with, is supposed to be coming from the source of light. We also have in this 13 moon calendar the archetype of the night, which is connected to darkness. This is actually Matthias, if you're interested in that. Matthias is the archetype of darkness. So he is able to show people the necessity and the meaning of darkness on this planet and in other dimensions. You, on the other hand, you have the opposing part of this. You can bring the awareness of light into this dimension and can help people feel what it is like to see the positivity of this experience. So when you're connecting to your purpose, it needs to be connected to positivity. For you, it is not so important to dive into all these shadow work aspects, because it's not bringing out the highest potential of you. The highest potential is connected to positivity, optimism, but also to truth. So when you think about light, it is the symbol of truth, because everything that light is being shined on is being revealed and exposed. So what you could also be doing as someone with the purpose of the sun is you could easily expose things that are hidden, and people would be able to receive them very well and in a harmonious way. Not everybody on this planet has the purpose to expose things. They could easily get people triggered, angry, start fights, you know. But if you would expose something, it would be with the energy of positivity and optimism, so people would be able to take it and see the truth behind it. And this is not just for your job, this is for family constructions. You could be the one in your family, for example, who could speak the truth about a pattern of ancestry, and you would be able to be the one who reveals that in a way where everybody would be able to take it. You know what I mean? So people would not be starting fights over what you're saying, but they will be seeing the truth about that. So the planetary aspect, because you're not just the sun, you're also the planetary sun. Planetary in galactic time is a so-called tone. It's a vibration that is always vibrating in the background, and planetary is the one about manifestation. So you are a master of manifestation, and this can go both ways. So of course, this is very beautiful because everything that you set your mind to, you can create really fast. But at the same time, it means that you need to be careful with manifestation, because sometimes we think that we want something, and in actuality, it is not what we are actually looking for. And then we are disappointed by what we have created. So the manifestation aspect of your being is something to take care of, and to see that you are also able to create something collectively. So when you want to start a project, you are a perfect person for innovation, like starting something that is not has not been seen yet on this earth, and it would manifest very naturally because you bring those qualities with you. I would like to read your galactic signature, but it's a little bit small.
I could read it if you want. I could read it here.
For sure.
It says, I perfect in order to enlighten, producing life. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the planetary tone of manifestation. I am guided by the power of elegance.
Beautiful. Okay, so you have the manifestation aspect also activated in your signature. And perfecting is something also that is within your system. So you can pay attention to details. You are allowed to do that. Sometimes people who are getting too caught up in details, they're messing up the whole thing because, perfectionism is not always helpful. But in your case, when you pay attention to details in your work, you will be able to create something very beautiful, because that beauty, that elegance that is in your signature leads me to your higher self aspect, which is, I believe, the star, right? I can read the yellow star.
Yellow star, yeah.
This is your higher self, and how beautiful is that? Because this is the energy of your higher aspect that has been with you through all the lifetimes. So this is not just connected to your life right now. This has been with you all the time. And whenever you feel confused or lost, or you don't know about what to do, you can connect to this higher aspect of yourself, because it remembers you of who you are. And the star in your case is the archetype of art. You are a creative energy throughout all lifetimes. You are an artist. So it is not just that about the star that is so beautiful, but the star is the star, which is the celebrity in some way. And I don't want to make this sound superficial, but it is not about being above others. It is about being seen by many people and being able to create a change through that. And it's funny because we share this with each other. I also have the star as the higher self.
Oh,
So yeah, so when you live according to that, actually one thing you could do is create content on social media, build a big following, be an actor, be a singer, be someone who is seen by many people in order to create a certain type of influence. And for you, the influence here is the positivity, the light of this existence. So you are here to be seen by people. So continue what you're doing, and allow yourself to go even further than what you're doing right now. Like, be the person who speaks instead of interviewing others. And I'm not saying that the interviews are not amazing, because they are, but there's something within you that wants you to be the person in the center, and that has the capability to speak for himself without anyone, interfering. Because right now your potential is being lived, which is beautiful, and for some people it's not that way. So you are on the path, and you know that because you're doing the work. But there's something more within you. There's a potential that you have to reach even more people and be on the stages that other people use that you are interviewing right now. So there's something new that you can create through your manifestation potential that has never been here before. So also a big part of this is, don't take too much inspiration from the other people that you see that are doing what you want to do. This is just because of your signature and your potential that you can bring something entirely new. So, sorry, did you want to say something?
I just said thank you because this is resonating with me a lot.
Yeah. So don't let anybody tell you how to do things. And I know that sometimes advice is a kind gesture, but it is not for you. Don't take advice, because you have something within you that wants to come out in a very specific way. So don't try to do it like the others are doing it. And you will see how the people will come to you like flies to the light, because you are the light. And the other aspect of you that I can see is actually the dog. That is your antipode, which is your biggest gift and your biggest challenge, right? It's the dog.
Yeah, the white dog.
Yeah, the white dog. It's the unconditional love that we talked about earlier. So this is your gift and your biggest challenge, because unconditional love is not just connected to others and what we transmit. It is also connected to ourselves. And the unconditional love aspect here is teaching you to put yourself, to allow yourself and put yourself into the position of the star, even if it seems sometimes that maybe you don't allow yourself that because you feel maybe you don't belong there, but you belong there. You belong there. You allow yourself to be in that position. So the aspect of love is something that will always come through in your work when you are living according to your potential. And this is also why maybe this live stream started by me saying I love you. I didn't even expect that, because usually I'm not a person who is like going up to everyone and saying, oh, I love you, because I don't feel that. And sometimes it's just like, superficial talk. But I think that came out in that moment, and I'm making this connection right now because you radiate love. And this is also why I felt connected with you already when I first saw you. And I don't even remember what video that was, but your voice and your eyes are connected to that aspect of unconditional love that you're able to transmit as the star. And this will be your activation portal, where other people come through you, through this energy, through this aspect, through nothing else, but through this aspect of you. And this is why I liked you so much from the beginning, because I don't really watch too many people in the spiritual realm, not because I don't like them, just because of like so much information, and you need to be a little bit more selective about what is actually important for you and what's not. But with you, it's just your energy is amazing and full of love and full of acceptance. And this is exactly what we need in this time right now, is this empathy towards all all races, all other opinion. It's not even about races and gender. I don't want to go into that because sometimes that can be also a dogma. But what I want to tap into is other opinions, other perspectives, and you're really good at that. You're really good to give unconditional love into that space and hold so many different perspectives. So this is your purpose, and in your hidden occult power, which is the thing that is not always accessible to you, is, I believe, the dragon. When I look at the
Yeah.
symbol,
The red dragon.
the
Yeah.
red dragon, exactly. So the red dragon is a very powerful energy. When you think about dragons, they are usually beings who are walking, not walking, flying their path alone. So the dragon is not a being that is in a tribe. It is a very independent being that is very powerful in knowing where to go. So a dragon either stays in a place, probably the movies where the dragon is like protecting the treasure and stays in a place in order to be the guardian of it. Or the dragon is the one who is free and is able to fly great distances and explores the world in its own way. So there is this thing here about you can allow yourself to be the dragon that is flying, because when you're being in your comfort zone, in the space that you are protecting, you're creating this energy of I'm not going to share myself, because I feel that you have all these experiences that you're also, like you were talking to me about, you're keeping to yourself in some way because you think maybe they're not so important, but actually these are need to be released and to fly out of your comfort zone, your cave, and to go into the world. And the thing is that the dragon is also the spirit of nurturing. It is the primordial mother of the universe. So every time that you are disconnected from your path, try to become, and usually I say your own mother, but also when it comes to masculine energies, like becoming your own father. You have a gift of nurturing yourself and nurturing other people as well. So you have that natural ability to be a father, for example, that is deeply within your structure. And you can, most fathers, especially in past generations, they were using their masculine power and control in order to make people feel, make their children feel small, or control them in some way. But you have the capability, as you are the dog that is so loving and the dragon that is nurturing, to be the real father role. And we can dive so deep into that, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. But the
Blue
last part,
storm.
the blue storm, those are people who are activating the highest potential within you. And the blue storm people are like very crazy people, actually.
Do you
So
know? Do you know of any of them?
yeah, yeah. I do know, but only from my own sessions. I don't know like public people that I can tell you that you may know. But storm people are the ones who activate others because they are creating a lot of movement and sometimes even chaos. Interestingly, this is something that activates you. So you're not being pressed down by all this chaotic energy. Actually, you're being inspired to move forward. So this is not about, removing yourself from all the other people who are not in this energy. This is more about, can you surround yourself more with people who are living a crazy lifestyle, for example, who are always on the go, or who are always like challenging new ideas, new concepts, who are bringing chaos into this world in a way where it's like changing something old into something new. People who are a bit crazy in some way. These are people who are very good for you. Your potential will not be activated with people who are more quiet, who are like in this peaceful energy. It doesn't mean that those people are not good for you. It's just like they are not activating this fire inside of you. So for you, it will be always good to be with people who are living a life that is activating and very stimulating as well. This is for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting us to go a full deep dive into the chart, but I
Hard to
appreciate it.
stop.
And I was receiving a lot of goosebumps, truth bumps as you were reflecting this. And yeah, I'm definitely going to put in the link for this so people can go to their own calculator and explore more. Just for context sake, just very shortly, where does this originate from, this lineage of wisdom?
Yes. So the original 13 moon synchrometer was actually already used in Atlantis. Actually, sometimes Matthias also talks about it very, very briefly. In the 13 moon calendar, there is a so-called day out of time, which is the 365th, the day of the year,
In
which is
August.
in in July and August, and this is where the things are like kind of merging with one another because some people say there are a few days out of time, some people say there's one day out of time, but in actuality, what is more important is not the 24-hour energies because that is also again linear time thinking. What is important to know about these days out of time is that they're happening with the heliacal rising of Sirius. So Sirius is the anchor point of this calendar system. And when Sirius is appearing in the sky, in those days of July and August, that is when we have those days out of time. And that is connected to the Atlantean time system, but also to this, let's say, newer version of the 13 moons that I am using, which has been brought back from the Atlanteans to the ancient Egyptians to the ancient Mexican culture that even existed before the Mayans. So there is like an updated version, let's say, that I'm using right now because I believe that the old ancient systems are super powerful, but we always need to adapt and we always need to bring new energies into it to not get stuck in old timelines. So
Yeah.
the version that I'm using was actually channeled on the pyramids of Mexico. So by a person called Jose Arguelles, and he used those ancient calendars and put like a new channeling into it with these archetypes in order for the modern human to connect to it better and understand more. And many people, it's a bit controversial actually, because many people are saying, no, that's not good because we are changing the old ancient knowledge. But I believe that it is like, our life, as I said before, is like a game, is like a big computer. So sometimes we need an update from the old system, and we
Yeah.
can use the knowledge and bring it into a new timeline and adapt it. So this is my perspective.
Mm.
That is why I'm using this updated version, because I connect to it, I feel it. The archetypes are so close to my heart, and when I resonate with something, I cannot ignore it.
Yeah. Following your intuition. And
Yeah.
Robert Grant calls the update the Aquarian OS.
Oh, I love
So we're here with the Aquarian OS and getting upgraded. I know this is the first of many conversations, Anna. Thank you for just sharing all of your wisdom today. We end every episode. I'm going to end with one really powerful question just to integrate everything that we've talked about. Before that, where would you send people to connect with you, follow all the teachings that you're putting out there? And of course, we'll put all the links for your website and everything else
that.
in
Is
the show notes.
Thank you. So of course, Instagram is my main platform that I use to share, which everything is free to watch and everybody can look at the updates. So that is at UFO Caller. And TikTok is the same, but I'm not so active there, so Instagram is better. And then my Galactic Time community, where we live according to the 13 moon calendar, is my Patreon, which is also UFO Caller. And I share daily transmissions there with meditations according to the frequencies that are active. And other than that, I have my YouTube where I upload very rarely, which you probably saw, but I want to continue uploading more. So in the future, you will see more of that. And what I want to share and mention maybe here is that I received that it is more important than ever to come together in person. So I do host events and retreats, and the events are, very accessible for anybody. And I encourage us, not for me as a person, but in general, to meet and connect with each other, looking into each other's eyes, seeing each other's auras in real life, and not just having like a distorted kind of perception through the filter of the devices and the technology, which is again not bad, but it is influencing a little bit of distortion here. So to meet in person would be amazing, and you can find the events also on my Instagram and on my website. And I want to say, like, when I'm doing this like sort of advertisement for my platform, I don't have the whole truth, and always be skeptical of what people are saying. Don't believe everything that you hear. Try to tune into your own wisdom. Always come back to your own resonance and to your own alignment. And if what I'm saying doesn't align with you, it doesn't need to. Walk your own path. Don't let anybody tell you what to do or not to do. You know exactly what is important for your life and your path. So this is just something I want to add to that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And of course, we'll drop everything in the description. I'm looking forward to co-creating more things. Obviously, there's not a lot of us from our generation that are speaking in this way so publicly and creating these very large platforms that are influencing a lot of people. So every time I see, I'm like, another one, there they are. And then I'm like, you're on my team. Let's go.
Yes.
We need us to come together. So
We're
it's
all
really
one
beautiful.
team.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of One Piece, with the crew on the ship, where we're all just finding each other in different countries, and then we have this group bond, and we all have our different gifts, and still we harmonize each other in that unique way. So let's all come together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the last question I have for you today
Yeah.
is, if you could guide all of us right now into a deep remembering of who we truly are as humans, what would you leave us with today?
Big question. Of who we truly are as humans. We are cells of a big ecosystem that is our beautiful planet Earth. And when we recognize that we're neither separate from the plants, the animals, the soil, the air, the fire, the water, all bodies of nature, when we recognize that we are all of those things, then we remember who we truly are. And this is not just connected to plants, animals, and nature bodies. This is also connected to other human beings. So when we recognize that we are aspects of everybody on this planet, then we remember who we truly are. When we stop escaping from this beautiful place that has been given to us. when we stop separating ourselves from others, and when we start seeing the divine in every being, even if it's just 1%, then we slowly remember who we are.
Thank you, Anna. Beautiful transmission, beautiful energy, and just wanted to thank you again for putting yourself out there. The world really needs the information that you carry and the codes that you carry, and I look forward again to doing this more times and gathering in person and co-creating, because we are stepping up, in many ways for this generation, and I see that in you, and that's also an inspiration for me. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to meet again.
Thank you, equally so. Thank you for what you're doing and what you're bringing into all of our consciousness.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.